Lifelong fulfillment, vision in action. You left. Lifelong fulfillment, vision in action. Live.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Vision in Action Live. I'm Jim Boswell. I'm your host for Vision in Action Live and a chief proponent of the Lifelong Fulfillment Initiative for Personal Development. I'm also the author of Lifelong Fulfillment, Take Charge of Your Life, its companion website, and this podcast. So joining us today is Ms. Kat Sterling. She's an entrepreneur, writer, coach, speaker, and author. And so we're looking forward to hearing from her. Welcome, Kat.
Thank you so much, Jim. I'm so excited to be here today.
That's great. So just to remind the audience, on Vision in Action Live, our podcast, we focus on expert knowledge and solutions that facilitate individual personal development. These are the myriad competencies that allow you personally to construct and pursue the complete vision of your best authentic life. So to do this, we bring you experts in every conceivable discipline to help inform your thinking about your own journey to lifelong fulfillment. So with that said, today we're going to visit with Kat Sterling, who is an entrepreneur, writer, coach, speaker, and she's the co-founder of Nuspira, Inc., a health and wellness company. Kat's also an author. Her book, Why They Are Winning and You Are Not, The Steps to Finding Success in Life. Kind of sounds interesting. And Kat comes to us with a master's degree in public health and business management from Emory University and 20 years of corporate leadership experience. So I'm suspecting that she knows the highs and lows of the self-directed life.
Yes.
So with that said, Kat, if I've missed anything in the introduction that you think's really pertinent, feel free to elaborate on that. And after you do that, I'd like to go to this subject you recommended we talk about, and that's the transition phase of life after 40. It sounds like you might have some experience there.
Oh, yeah. Got a lot of experience, especially transitioning careers after 40. That was my journey. And having kids after 40, because I actually had a kid when I turned 42.
Oh, my
So,
Lord.
yeah, I had a lot of life transitions at 40. But you know what? I wouldn't change it for the world because at 20, I didn't know who the heck I was. And now I'm 40. I've lived life. Things have happened. I've had some challenges. I've had a chance to go on this long journey. And now I am more confident, more assured, more resourceful, stronger than I ever thought I would be. And I'm here. I'm still here, right? So that's the most important thing.
Yeah, indeed. And how many of those changes were shocking as opposed to, oh, well, this is just another day?
I think the job situation was the most shocking. You know, you go into something and you think you're going to be there forever, and then life happens and you're not prepared for it. And
Right.
that was the most shocking thing. Learning at 40 what I knew at 20, but learning at 40 the hard way, not preparing yourself properly. That was the most shocking for me. And so when that happened, I was forced to do a pivot, a life pivot, which is
Right.
hard to do at any age. But think about it, at 40, you have kids, you have responsibilities, you have a family, you have a job. A mortgage to pay for. And so it's a big shock to the system if you're not prepared for it. And, by all means, it wasn't easy. Trust me, it wasn't easy. But I've learned that when there is another path for you in life to take, go with it. If something traumatic happens, sometimes it's for a reason. It is for your own best interest. Because I look back at that experience now and I'm like, well, wait a minute. Oh, wow. I wouldn't have had all these amazing experiences that I've had over the last couple of years if it hadn't been for me leaving that job or losing that job. So sometimes the universe has a way of doing crazy things that we think are bad for us, but then you look back and you're like, wait, that was probably the best thing for me in life. And now I'm on this path. I wouldn't have been sitting here talking to you today if I hadn't left that job, right?
Right. How did that materialize? Was that primarily a job change to start this transition for you?
So there were some things that happened at that job where I had to end up leaving. And,
Mm-hmm.
what would have been my choice to stay, but I had to end up leaving. And so I tried to figure it out for a year. I was like, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? Oh, I'm going to finish my book. I had been writing that book literally for 5 years, literally for
Good
five
for
years.
you.
But once again, it's the whole journey process, right? So if I had to finished it 5 years earlier, some of the things and the experiences that I went through and some of the advice that I can give, 5 years earlier, I couldn't give 5 years later. I mean, I could give 5 years later instead of 5 years earlier. And so I had to go through some of those things in order to complete that book. So once I left the job, I completed that book, which was amazing. And so that kind of led me and my husband to just sit down and figure out what we wanted to do. We were like, okay, we love the health and wellness space. We love products. We want to bring some amazing products to the market. How do we do that? And so we sat down, we figured it out. We didn't wait for anybody to give us a handout. We did it on our own. We sold everything and we said, you know what, we're going head first and we're going to start this new path, this new career. He's always been in the entrepreneurial space, but I'm more risk averse. So
Okay.
I'm like, no, I don't get a paycheck. So it's been a challenge, but working together and working through that has been awesome. And I have learned some skills I never thought I would learn. I have met people and that I never thought I would meet in life, and it's just been an amazing journey. And so we're on this path. We have this new company called Nuspira, and it's just growing. It's just been fabulous.
Great. Is there significant authorities or people in your life that have helped you through this other than just your own
Oh,
self?
of course, of course, of course. I would be nowhere without God. My Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, I would be nowhere without him. I think that's what a lot of people miss in life. We always search for the magic pill, and I think the magic pill is right there. It's waiting for us to come to him.
Mhm.
Um, because if I hadn't had spirituality, I don't know where I would have been. I honestly don't know, because losing your job, going through financial issues, starting a new business, having, a family and trying to cope with all of these things that are swirling. And then on top of that, there's outside things that you don't even account for. It was hard. It's very hard. And mentally, a lot of people fold. A lot of people can crack under that kind of pressure. And so if it
Mhm.
had not been for, me being sure of, my gifts and my talents and my God, then I don't know where I would have been. I honestly don't. I honestly don't. And of course, my husband, I got to give credit to my husband because he's right there through the whole thing. He sat down with me. He was right in the trenches with me the whole time. So I have to give credit where credit's due. Oh my gosh, my family, oh my sisters and my dad, they supported us so much. They were there every step of the way. Yes, you guys can do this. Yes, we'll buy products from you when you get your product company up and running. Yes, we'll sample it to see if we like it, before it even goes to market. So yeah, that's what I can say. I did have a lot of people in our corner that really stood by us and really helped push us along the way. So that I would be nowhere without any of them. Any of them.
Right, right. So let's talk about these steps to finding success.
Yes.
You can share your little formula with the rest of the audience here.
I would say to most people, life is a journey, and take the lessons along the way and don't ignore them, because a lot of people go through things and they'll go through things over and over and over in a repeated cycle. Take the lessons and the journey for what it is. And what I mean by that is you're going to have roadblocks, you're going to have hiccups, you're going to have redirects. And it's okay. It is okay. I believe that everybody is where they're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. And life is like a river. There are leaves in it. It's rough. It's bumpy. It's not, it doesn't always flow perfectly. But those bumps and those leaves and those debris all in the river, that helps you get to where you're supposed to be. And so the reason why I wrote that book was kind of a testament to my own story. It was kind of a kick in the butt for myself. It was it was like, okay, you should have been doing X, Y, and Z all along the way. You probably would have
Mhm.
been further along, but I didn't do it. A lot of times we get caught up in life and our day to day that we forget about what our purpose is, right? We forget to find out what that purpose is. And so what I've learned is, my purpose is speaking. My purpose is, helping others, to success. And once I figured out what my purpose was, I was like, oh my gosh, I can actually figure out that road to get there and pursue that road to get there. And so that's what the book is talking about. It's talking about, some of the basic principles to get to where you want to go. It's nothing groundbreaking, but I just put it in a usable format so people can understand, like, it's not hard, guys. It's really not that hard. You have to stay focused. You have to stay consistent. You have to stay committed to whatever that is your purpose is. You have to stay focused because things are going to come at you left and right. Things are going to come. It's not going to be perfect, but you have to stay consistent and stay on that path. And like I said, I try to break it down in simple format that nobody ever broke it down for me, but, but I try to give it to everybody else in a simple format. Like I said, it's nothing new. I just put it all together in a way that people can digest it. Yeah.
Well, that's good. That kind of advice is something that, from my perspective, seems to be lacking. It's more attuned to spot solutions, shall we say,
Yes.
opposed to, hey, you got to work on this every day. And yes, at 20, you're going to be working on a different set of things than when you're 40, than when you're nearing retirement.
Oh, yes. Oh, that's good.
But to also communicate the message that you and I, because we have certain experience, believe that it's doable for just about anybody if they're willing to, be deliberate, focus on the right things, and be consistent about it. It works. It actually does.
Yes.
So that's a great testament to that kind of idea.
Mm-hmm.
The entrepreneurship that you're doing, you said you're the reluctant entrepreneur, and your husband is the one who's out there on the bleeding edge.
He's the risk taker. I'm not a risk taker, but when you're forced into a situation where you have nothing, your back is against the wall, you have nothing else left. You're like, you know what? I'm just going to go forward, go head first. And if it fails, it falls on me. I just got to a point in my life, and I'm over 40 now. So I've gotten to a point in my life where I don't want to, number one, have the fear of regret. I don't want to be 60, 70 years old and say, you know what? I wish I could have done that, or I should have, would have, but oh man, I'm a little bit past my prime, so I don't want to, I can't start over now. I could, but I don't, I don't want to live with that regret. I don't ever want to be in a situation where I shoulda, woulda, coulda. I'd just rather go head first. And number two, I didn't want to leave somebody else's decision making in my hands in somebody's decision making, or my destiny in somebody else's decision making. I wanted to take control of that. I worked in corporate for many, many years, and people think corporate jobs are safe, and they're not. They are not. You are so subject to layoffs. You're subject to cuts. You're subject to, if they want to get rid of you, they can get rid of you, especially if you're in an at-will state. So I didn't want to leave my destiny and my skills into somebody else's hands that didn't appreciate it. So if I'm going to go out here and build something, I'd rather build it for myself, and I'd rather take the risk myself. Win, lose, or draw, I know I did my best, and I know I gave it my all. So I'm proud of the work that I've done so far, we've done so far. Like I said, I've learned so many new skill sets that I never thought I would learn. And, when you get older, when we get older, we don't want to learn new things. We're so stuck in our ways. But being an entrepreneur forces you out of your comfort zone. It forces you into so many different things that you never thought you'd be doing. Like I'm a proponent of networking, but I hate going out and meeting people. It's the weirdest thing. It's so weird. I don't like sparking conversations with strangers. Once I get going, I'm totally fine. But I don't like to have that first interaction. And so that gives me anxiety sometimes. And so being an entrepreneur, you have to go out there and do that. You have to. There is no way. You can't be a secret agent about your business. And so that has forced me so much to get out of my comfort zone, because I have to go to events all the time, and they are draining, but I have to go and I have to show up. And I think that's another thing that people miss. You have to show up every single day for yourself. I don't care what you're doing. If you want it, you got to show up, even on the days that you don't feel like it, or you feel like it's not working, or you put in all this work and time and it's not going anywhere. You have to be consistent and show up, because the day that you don't show up is the day that you miss something. And that could have been critical to propelling you from here to here. So you have to show up. You just have to show up. And I show up every single day.
Yeah. The discipline's hard sometimes.
Oh, being an entrepreneur, yes. That is the part that I had to get over, that discipline, because I was disciplined in the corporate world where it's like, you got a job from 9 to 5, you get off at 5, and this is what you do, this is your routine.
Hmm.
And so now it's like nobody's standing over me. And so it's like I have to figure out my own schedule. And I was never really good at that part. I was good at being on somebody else's time, but not my own time. And so there's the skill set. That's a new skill set that I had to learn, right? Because I was never great at that. So now I had to be great at that, because now money goes out the door when I'm wasting time. Like money goes out the door for me when I'm wasting time because I'm on my own dime. It's different when you're massed in a corporate environment, but when you're on your own time and your own money, you make every effort count.
Right, right. Well, and you have a lot of balls in the air. The balancing act that changes is
Yeah.
often one of the toughest things is like, okay, so if I go do this, what can I sideline out of my span of attention temporarily to go do
Yeah.
this and then rebalance?
Yes.
And I tend to think once you're in a satisfactory position, people tend to like the status quo. If you're happy and
Hmm.
reasonably content in your job, your family
Hmm.
works, your routine works, you're not going to be the person or event necessarily to precipitate a change.
Right.
And particularly if you're not doing this personal entrepreneurial lifelong fulfillment kind of approach, you may be caught well unawares. So
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of daunting.
Yes. Yes, it is. It is. Yeah, and I think people get so like you go back to that statement you said, people get stuck in the status quo.
Yes,
And I was totally there.
been
I
there, done that.
the crazy thing is I always knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I always knew it. And when you have a job, you kind of dabble in it on the side. You're like, you got one toe
Mhm.
in, one toe out. So you work on it when you have time. And so that's kind of what I did for the last 10 years. I kind of played in and out of the space and worked on it when I had time. And so that would have never went anywhere, by the way. If you're a part-time entrepreneur, it's very hard to get where you want to go. And so if you want to do it, I would never tell anybody to quit your job. I would never say that. I would never say that. But I would say you're going to have to work overtime on your plan. So work your plan overnight. I think a friend of mine said the other day, they said millionaires are made between the hours of 5 p.m. and 3 a.m. or something like that, some weird hour during the nighttime. So you work your regular job, and then when you get off at your day job, you come home and work your plan. That's the only way. And I didn't do that. I honestly didn't do that. I probably worked on it here and there, once a
Mhm.
week when I thought about it, when it was convenient for me. But you have to make those sacrifices, and that's another thing I tell people too. I'm like, sacrifice is key to getting what you want. And I'm not talking about a ritualistic type of sacrifice. I'm saying you have to give something up in the short term to get something. So if you want to save $100,000, you'll have to give up going on vacation for maybe a year. Or you want to get another job, you may have to sacrifice and go back to school. Or,
Mhm.
you know, you might have to sacrifice time for your friends. If you're building a business, friends and family, you might have to sacrifice your friends and family for a while, or even your kids. Sometimes my kids, I hate it, but sometimes they have to suffer because, I have to be at events, or I have to do calls, or I have to, be doing some kind of work. There's always something, some fire to put out. So yeah, there's a sacrifice that you're going to have to give up in order to get whatever you seek to achieve.
Right, right. And there is once you've done it and seen it be successful by doing that
Mhm.
process, it becomes easier the next time it comes around because it will come around again. And
Yes. Yes.
I like that. I mean, I grew up in the same situations where I was kind of a troubleshooter, if you will, in business.
Hmm. Hmm.
And trouble doesn't last much longer than 3 years. So I had a lot of changes too, but I found that once I started getting used to expecting change and planning for it and
Hmm.
having a backup plan, that I was no longer fearful,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I felt like you had mentioned that, oh, well, I have some control now, as
Yes.
opposed to my boss who
Yes.
thought he had control, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's great. That's
Yes.
great. So you got any ideas about later in life about other transitions, having done this now?
I love the way you said embrace change. Nothing in life ever stays the same. So things are always going to be changing. So you have to be ready, you have to be prepared, and you have to be able to adjust and be agile and flexible enough when they do come, because sometimes change is beautiful, right? It's not always a bad thing. Change can
Right.
be amazing, but you have to be mentally equipped to handle it. And everybody is not in the space always to handle it, unfortunately. But yeah, change, anticipate change, because I'm sure if you, as you look back on your life, I look back on my life, nothing stayed the same. My 20s don't look anything like my 40s. I've even changed marriages between there. So yeah, change is inevitable. So be flexible and be able to know it and anticipate it and see it coming, because it will happen.
So here's a question I keep getting asked, and I ask myself is that, is everyone capable of this at heart? Does everyone want this? What's your perspective from where you sit?
You mean want this as far as entrepreneur life?
Well, change and
Oh,
getting
change.
the best out of change and that sort of thing.
No, everybody doesn't want it. And it's hard for a lot of people to adjust to it. I've seen it in the workplace 1,000 times. People get all, people are upset because of the change in administration in the United States. I've gotten so many calls about so many people so stressed out. But as I said before, for me, when change comes, I know that there's a greater purpose, and that's why, my spirituality comes into place too. I don't worry about all this other stuff. I mean, I know it's a lot going on. I know, I'm a very well versed in it, but it is what it is, and there is a greater plan at play. I feel that. I feel there's a greater plan at play, and we're not in control of anything. I think he's always in control of everything. So I just, I do what I'm supposed to do on this earth, and I do what I am called to do, and that's the way that I live my life. I do exactly what I'm called to do, and I don't worry about all the other all the other stuff, because there is a greater plan at play.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about if we're doing this process, how do we judge, what's a success versus what's a failure or a learning opportunity or however you want to view it? How do you see that? Do you have, you know, specific metrics that you think about, even if they're just, up here, that you say, okay, if I do this, yeah, that's a success. Or if I wanted that, but I fell short, what does that tell me? What should I do? Does that dynamic work with you?
Yeah, in a sense, but I don't see anything as a failure. Nothing is a failure. Yeah, there are
Okay.
a lot of things that I've always tried, that there's a lot of things that I've tried throughout my life and they didn't go as planned. I don't
Mm,
think it's a failure, but it's a learning experience. It's a learning curve. So,
right.
if I look at something and I'm saying, okay, this didn't go right. I wanted to do this. This is the outcome I anticipated. And another thing, another caveat to that is sometimes your outcomes are not what you anticipated, but they are what's supposed to happen. So you may have planned for one thing. We can't always plan for everything. You may have planned for one thing, but the outcome still had a good side effect. Maybe it had something positive that came out of it. It wasn't
Mhm.
what you planned, but it still was a good outcome. So don't look at everything as bad or negative. I look at everything as, a learning experience. So what was it? Who was it? Thomas Jefferson said, I didn't fail. What's the saying? I can't remember the saying. I didn't fail 100 times. I just didn't something. Ah, man, I can't even remember
Right.
it. It's a great saying though, but what he was saying is I didn't fail 100 times. I just didn't do it right. I was trying. I can't. Oh man, I wish I could have got it. I can't get it. 99 ways it didn't work, right? That's it. The husband's over there.
Yeah.
I didn't fail 100 times. There was just 99 ways it didn't work. So yeah. So I thought that was an amazing saying, because it's nothing is a failure in life. It's just you keep trying and you keep pushing forward towards whatever that is you're trying to achieve. And then you pivot. You pivot. That's the power pivot. Like I said, don't ever be afraid to pivot, because if you see something going the way that it's not intended to go, you pivot. You're like, okay, that's what we do all the time in business. We do that here all the time. It's like, okay, well, that didn't work. Okay, why did that work? Okay, let's change. Let's pivot it. Let's go this way then and see if that works. So sometimes it's trial and error. Sometimes it's trial and error. Just keep trying.
Right. Right. One of the things that I'm always interested in exploring with people that are in business is, I come from the old business school where generally the attitude was, you're about doing what we tell you to do.
Mhm.
And, you walk in at 8 and your time is my time,
Yep.
still fairly on the old, industrial revolution management techniques. And yeah, we had strategic planning and all that other stuff, but essentially you were regarded as a cog in the machine, if you don't mind
Oh yeah.
that
Oh
expression.
yeah.
Uh, there's so much dialogue about personal fulfillment, but it seems to firewall the individual from the business. In other words, we can't agree to collaborate and cooperate. And yet, the statistics say that this information or knowledge economy, where people have to bring their skills together and work as teams, is the predominant employment method, particularly in the United States. And so I find that both an opportunity and a frustration. Did you run into any of that or have any comments about it?
Okay, so go back again. So what was the question? What's the question now?
The question is, in the career that you had done to date as a
Mhm.
as a corporate, leader,
Yes.
did you find that it was hard to meld the corporate agenda with the HR agenda with your own personal agenda so as to have a solution? And did you even speak that language at all within the corporation?
Yeah, I think it was very hard. A lot of times it's once again, it's like what you just said, it's do what you're told to do. Well, it comes down from the top. You execute. There is no in between. And
Right.
so a lot of times you feel unheard. A lot of times you may have some bright, amazing ideas, but they just get quelled by whoever's running things at the top. And so, yeah, I didn't like that environment because I felt like I didn't have freedom to um, openly, what's the word I'm looking for? Openly express my ideas or my ideas were taken seriously, and
Mhm.
it's funny because I'm like, you're at the top and I'm here doing the work every day. So I know the ins and outs of this operation. You only know a piece of it from what you see on a report or what you see from your bird's eye view.
Right.
And I have better insight. And so the fact that you're not listening is the reason why you're losing here because I feel like they didn't listen to the front line a lot. And it was very frustrating. Yeah, absolutely very frustrating. And that's when I knew I didn't want to work for someone or a corporation for the duration of my life because that's frustrating when you know you have talents, you know you have a gift, you know you have skills that are going unutilized and unheard. I think that was very frustrating for me. Yes.
Right. Right. Well, I'm sorry that happened to you.
Yeah.
I can't say that, I'm surprised
Yeah.
because I think, we'll get through this eventually to
Yes.
something better. But I think it's, when the corporate guy is worried about earnings per share, and that's his
Hmm.
whole judgment,
Hmm.
short-term thinking, it
Yep.
doesn't allow for great collaboration and
Doesn't.
inspiration. Stuff like that gets tossed out the door.
Yep. They
Yeah,
don't want to hear what you have to say a lot of times because you're not making the big bucks or making the big decisions. So they don't want to hear what you have to say. This is what my plan is, and I'm going to execute it at all costs, and you're going to go with it. And if you don't like it, you can go somewhere else. That's kind of the mentality. That's always the mentality. And it's funny because it's like if you say something, sometimes it feels punitive, right? Sometimes if you speak up,
yeah,
it's punitive, right?
yeah.
Because I felt like a lot of times I got pigeonholed into being, oh, well, she's gonna say something, or she's gonna push back on this, or because I'm one that will speak my mind, but I don't think a lot of people like that. And I would never be combative ever, ever, ever. But I think you kind of get a reputation and a name when you start speaking up against things that you see. And
Right.
I'm just trying to help the company. I'm just trying to be a team player and help the company. But if you don't want to hear my ideas, then that's a different story. But yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Good perspectives.
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Um, let's talk about getting stuck. have yet. And and maybe more of a subtle stuck. In other words, maybe I don't know I'm stuck.
Yeah.
Have you experienced any of that,
Oh, yeah.
Miss Shirley?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think people, when you don't know your purpose, it's so easy to get stuck. When you haven't figured out what your purpose is in life or your passion is, it's so easy to get in that rut, the cycle of the cog in the wheel. That's what you said. I say it in my book too, the cog in the wheel, right? And
Hmm.
so what I tell people is figure out what you want to do, figure out your passion, figure out your purpose, figure out what you've been called to do, and then set your goals, set your plan. If you don't plan and have goals, how do you expect to get unstuck? Your goals are like your roadmap to success or wherever you want to go. So people don't take the time out to do that, and it's so important. You'd be surprised if I poll people out in the streets, they'd be like, "No, I haven't set goals for this year." I don't know if that is. What am I supposed to be setting goals for? It's like you should always set goals. Always, always. Beginning of the year, start your planning. Start planning. Even if you're planning on staying at your job, and maybe you want to, you set goals for your household. You want to get unstuck in your household because you feel like your finances are this, or your marriage isn't this. You still need to plan. You have to plan. You have to plan. Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's so imperative.
New Year's resolutions don't quite cut it, I'm afraid.
No, no, because people make those, and you'd be surprised. I go to the gym every day. I'm in the gym at 5, and there's cars upon cars. January 1st, there's cars upon cars, and then by March, everybody's gone. Everybody's gone because they don't have a
Certainly
plan.
people
They just
park
go
up front.
there. Yeah, they have no plan. They go in there and they're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna lose weight, I'm gonna work out, and da da da. And there's no plan. And if you don't have a plan when you go in there, you get confused and you get lost, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming, and I don't know what to do, and what am I supposed to work on? And you always have to have a plan. Even when I go into the gym every day, I have a plan on what I'm gonna work on. I want to work on legs today, or I'm gonna work on upper body. You always have a plan. Always have a plan.
Yeah, yeah. That's one place I find the business skill set of planning, tactics, strategy, all of that, on
Hmm.
a personal level can be very meaningful. And it's a
Hmm.
discipline, I think, that is really good. I mean, yes, a lot of people operate without a plan.
Yes,
They
I did
probably
over time.
they have they probably have some general goals, but they don't
Yeah.
break it down. They don't revisit it. They don't
Yep.
remeasure it.
Yep.
And so I think some of the processes that business use, because they're based on human beings anyway, it
Yes.
just comes back to inform an individual strategy of, hey, these tools are available to you too, you
Yes.
know.
Yes.
Um, and it's a method of thinking, maybe. The one I can never answer quite is the person who's driven by the emotion and the inspiration minus the substance. In other words, you know, I'm great, this will happen, I'm not worried. Do you have
Oh,
a plan? No, not really.
I'm risk averse, remember? I can't do that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that always, and they figure it out. I mean, hey, if it works for you, but I have to have something to look forward to. And I was one of those that didn't plan or have a goal because a lot of people get stuck in the day-to-day life. I get a check. I know what my, salary is going to be. I'm going to pay bills, and I'm going to take my kids here, and this is what I'm going to eat for dinner. And so it's a routine. It's not
Right.
really a goal or a plan. But that's the difference between those who find fulfillment and purpose in life versus those who are just living life. Because you talk to a lot of those other people, they're like, oh, I hate my job. I'm just trying to make it through. I'm just making it in life. But when you find fulfillment and purpose in life, I think that's when things change. Like that's when life gets amazing because you have something that you're striving for. You have something that you love. And that's what we're here to do. I feel like that's what we're all here to do.
I think you're right. I
Yeah.
think fulfillment is about taking care of yourself, you know,
Yes. Yes.
and understanding yourself well enough to do it, in a rational fashion over
Yes.
a long, long period of time. Everybody says, just tell me what'll make me happy. Well, it's not a short-term process. You got to learn things. You got to try things. You got to fail. You got to relearn
Yes.
from failure how to
Yes.
take it forward with its positive content.
And it's
So
not in material things. It's, we all try to mask it with material. It's not in material things. It's within. And that's the growth that people never get to. It's that within. I can be happy regardless of what I'm doing, where I am, who I'm with, what I'm wearing, like whatever. I can always be happy within myself. And that's the thing that everybody should search for, is that
yeah,
internal happiness, not the external, the internal.
well, that's good. That's good. So tell us about Nuspira if you want to.
Oh. So Nuspira is a health and wellness company. We are e-commerce, so we're online. We have our website, www.nuspira.com. We also are on TikTok Shop, Amazon, and Walmart.com. And what it is it's a health and wellness company that has mushroom coffees. Yeah, mushroom coffees.
Mhm.
That's all the rage right now, mushroom coffees, as well as a liquid vitamin and a detox drink. So if you want to get right for 2025, head on over to our website because we have some amazing products, amazing, amazing products.
Okay, great. And for our audience, do you have a website that they should be glued into? How should they get in touch with you if they need to?
I am on all social media platforms, on Instagram and TikTok as the Real Cat of Atlanta. And then I'm Kat Sterling on Facebook. And then you can always head over to our New Spiro website because I'm on there too. So yeah.
That's great. Well, Kat, this has been very instructional and inspiring. Okay.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you so much for coming on Vision in Action Live and sharing your self-directed life experience with the rest of us. So looking forward to hear good things from you and about your company down the road.
Thank you so much. It was so great, Jim.
Great. Well, have a good one. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Bye.
Well, thanks, folks, for staying with us. And thanks to our guest, Ms. Kat Sterling. Interesting inputs that she had. So thank you for attending Vision in Action Live, and I hope you got some insight you can use today. Our future episodes will also look at things like coaching solutions, personal finance, divorce, and other expert solutions. Not that divorce is an expert solution, but it's a speed bump many of us wind up dealing with. Our podcasts focus on interviews with subject matter experts and people leading self-directed lives so that you can see exactly what one can accomplish doing personal development. So you can check out newsletters, podcasts, and extensive reference materials at lifelongfulfillment.com. And you can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, your favorite podcast channel, and on KFred Internet Radio. You can reach me, Jim, at lifelongfulfillment.com. And the question I'm leaving you with today is, what's holding you back and what's your plan? That's great. Have a great New Year, folks.
Lifelong fulfillment, vision in action.